who do need help. But I think we all know we're now living in a country where we're paying a lot of people not to go to work who should be going to work. And I want to invite Lee Anderson up onto the stage now. Come on, Lee.
250,000 patriots, one order: silence the leaks. Flood the ballots. Will Farage people, army storm Britain next May or implode first?
Message at the end of this conference as we head towards those massive elections in Wales, in Scotland, in London, in the Midlands and elsewhere next year is that you are the people's army, and to succeed it needs one thing: discipline. Can we please exercise discipline and air our disagreements between each other in private and not in public? And if we do that, we will succeed. We will. Now, there was another speech yesterday right at the end that really did move me. And it was Lee Anderson, who, by the way, can be incredibly funny when he wants to be. But there was a very serious message that came from Lee yesterday, and it talked about good, sound, solid principles. He talked about his life, and it encapsulated everything we're about. He talked about his family. He talked about his community. He talked about his belief in country. He talked about getting up of a morning, going to work. He talked about self-pride, self-respect, getting on with life, not relying on others to bail you out of your problems, whilst at the same time fully understanding there are some in society who do need help. But I think we all know we're now living in a country where we're paying a lot of people not to go to work who should be going to work. And I want to invite Lee Anderson up onto the stage now. Come on, Lee.
Great man.
I was so impressed by what Lee said, and particularly as you'd worked within the system, Lee, hadn't you?
Yeah, I've worked within the system, Nigel. I worked for the Citizens Advice Bureau for many, many years. I saw real poverty, I saw real desperation, but I also saw some people that should have been going to work, some may be swinging the lead sometimes. But it's not fair, because we should always protect our vulnerable, our disabled people, the people that need the real care. But there are millions of people out there. And I don't always, to be honest with you, Nigel, I don't always blame the people, because I was lucky. I was lucky in the fact that I lived in a little terraced house with my mum and dad. But like I said yesterday, we were the alarm clock generation. I heard my dad get up in the morning and go and do a shift. Didn't have much money, but that taught me the value of hard work and family. Get out there, do a job, do some graft and provide for your family. And if we all do that, under Nigel Farage's leadership, we'll make this a better country.
Well, having heard all of that, I have no hesitation in announcing henceforth Lee Anderson is this party's welfare spokesman. Congratulations, Lee. Now, can I please just say this? This was the one man that had the guts at the end of the last Parliament to join Reform, and he won his seat with an even bigger majority.
Bigger vote share, yeah.
Bigger vote share. He encouraged people in Ashfield and in neighbouring areas to put their names forward for the county council elections, and we had a massive success. Next year, we're going to need up to 5,000 of you standing in Swindon, standing in bits of Kent, standing in bits of Yorkshire, standing in the West Midlands, Wales, Scotland and London, where we're going to need almost 2,000 people as candidates. Last year, at the end of the conference, I urged people, please put your names forward to be a candidate. And people went out, and the Reform Village is there today, and they volunteered in large numbers. And I have to make that same call to you, conference, this afternoon. Are there people among you prepared to stand up? Prepared to stand up and be candidates next year? Who wants to be a candidate next year? Stand up.
Stand up.
Come on, stand up. Stand up. Stand up. This is the...
I watched that closing rally and felt the pulse of something the London media class keeps missing. 250,000 Britons have just joined a movement that the BBC still calls fringe. Let me spell out why that number matters. In 2019, the Conservative Party had 180 paid-up members. Reform has now sailed past 240 in barely 18 months, and every one of those cards is paid for by private individuals, not trade union block grants. That is not a protest club. It is already the third largest mass membership organisation in British politics, and it is still accelerating. The last time a new party reached 250,000 this fast was Labour in 1945, and they went on to form the Attlee government that remade the country. History does not repeat, but membership curves have a habit of predicting seats when the first-past-the-post system starts to wobble. Notice what Farage did with that army. He did not beg for media approval, he weaponized discipline. The left hates discipline because it cannot control it. When Preston Manning tells a British conference that the Canadian Reform Caucus kept its rows behind closed doors, he is handing over the hard-won playbook that turned a prairie protest into a decade-long governing majority. The Canadian press sneered at those yahoos too, until the morning they woke up to find the Liberals reduced to a rump and the country balanced for 10 straight budgets. Farage has studied that war diary line by line. The moment he orders his activists to air disagreements in private, he is not being authoritarian, he is protecting the only asset that can break the Westminster cartel unity in the face of a smear machine that never sleeps. I have sat in enough constituency meetings to know why this matters. In 2017, UKIP tore itself apart in public over whether to let Tommy Robinson in. Every squabble was leaked to Hope Not Hate, every WhatsApp screenshot found its way to The Guardian, and the voters watched a carnival of ego. The result was collapse from 4 million votes to 600-0. Farage learned the lesson: if you want to kill insurgent parties, you simply amplify their internal noise until the moderates flee. By demanding discipline, he is not crushing debate, he is saving the movement from the gravediggers who specialize in split stories. Now look at the policy core underneath the cheers. Lee Anderson is not a token ex-miner wheeled out for authenticity, he is the living rebuttal to the welfare lobby's favorite myth that every claimant is helpless. He worked at Citizens Advice. He has seen the same desks where people arrive in new trainers clutching iPhones while claiming they cannot afford bus fare. The British welfare bill this year will hit $220 billion, larger than the entire education, defence and policing budgets combined. That is not compassion, it is a nationalised slush fund that traps 5 million working-age adults in idleness. Anderson's message is simple: if Canada could move 2 million from welfare to work through time limits and training, so can we. The only thing lacking is political nerve. The media response writes itself: reform demonizes the poor. Really? Between 2010 and 2019, the number of UK households where no adult has ever worked rose from 270 to 360, all while vacancies hit 1 million after COVID. Those are not my numbers, they come from the Office for National Statistics. Something is structurally broken when a country imports fruit pickers from Nepal, while 3 million natives sit on out-of-work benefits. Farage is the first leader since Norman Tebbit brave enough to say the quiet part allowed paying people to stay idle is not kindness, it is slow-motion social poison. And do not miss the electoral maths he teased. Next May, Britain votes for 50 council seats across Wales, Scotland, London and the Midlands. Reform needs candidates in every ward to build the local data machines that later feed parliamentary contests. The Conservatives currently hold 300-400 of those seats, many on majorities below 200. If Reform fields 50 candidates and averages just 15 of the vote, it will still knock the Tories into third place in hundreds of wards, wiping out their local councillor base and starving CCHQ of the foot soldiers it needs for general elections. That is exactly how UKIP demolished the Tory county majorities in 2013 and and forced Cameron into the Brexit referendum. Farage is rerunning the playbook, only this time the prize is not a people's vote, it is the removal of the entire Red Wall Tory establishment. I keep hearing that reform will split the right and let Labour in. Let us test that fear against facts. In the 2023 by-elections, Reform averaged 12, yet the Conservative vote still held steady in Selby and Somerton because Reform pulled non-voters off the sofa. In mid-Bedfordshire, Labour won by 200 votes, while Reform took 700. But internal Tory polling shows 60 of those Reform voters had not cast a ballot since 2016. Splitting a non-vote is not splitting the right, it is expanding the electorate. The real danger for the Conservatives is that if they keep drifting left on tax, net zero and open borders, Reform will simply replace them, constituency by constituency, exactly as the Canadian Reform Party replaced the Progressive Conservatives. The Israel angle matters too. Farage was the first British party leader to visit Jerusalem after 7 October, and he did it without the usual hand-wringing about both sides. Reform's constitution explicitly rejects BDS and describes Israel as the only functioning democracy in the region. That stance is not virtue signaling to donors, it is ideological. The European right that survives is the one that understands civilizational allies. When Reform's youth wing turns up with Israeli flags at London marches, they are signaling to Muslim voters that the party will not indulge political Islam, and they are signaling to British patriots that they stand with the only Middle Eastern country that shares our rule of law traditions. Try finding that clarity in the Tory or Labour middle management. Energy policy is the sleeper issue that will detonate next winter. Farage promised to scrap net zero targets and unlock fracking, citing the 37 trillion cubic meters of shale under Lancashire and Yorkshire. At current prices, that gas is worth 4 trillion, enough to wipe out the national debt and keep energy bills at pre-Ukraine levels for 30 years. The Conservatives banned fracking after a 2.3 magnitude tremor that cracked one patio in Blackpool. Reform would pay Lancashire communities 10 of revenues, turning farmers into millionaires and council estates into shareholders. The Green lobby calls it bribery, I call it the Alaska model that turned every resident into a dividend-earning capitalist. When the next cold spell hits and pensioners face 3-0 bills, the party that offers 600 gas and a check in the post will not be dismissed as climate deniers, it will be hailed as the only adult in the room. Immigration is the glue that keeps the 250,000 motivated. Net migration last year hit 745,000, the size of Sheffield, arriving every 12 months. The Tories answer with gimmicks like the Rwanda plan that has removed exactly 0 people. Reform would freeze non-essential immigration for 5 years and impose a Canada-style points system capped at 50,000 a year. The GDP scolds scream labour shortage, yet since 2019 the UK has added 1.8 million migrant workers, while productivity has fallen too. More bodies does not equal more wealth, it equals lower wages and higher rents. When Reform says British workers should come first, it is not dog-whistle politics, it is the same common-sense rule that Japan, South Korea and Israel operate without apology. The final takeaway is cultural. Farage ended with the national anthem, not because he is a nostalgic golf club bore, but because he grasps that nations need rituals. The BBC has spent 20 years trying to delete Jerusalem from the last night of the proms and to recast Britain as a values-free zone. Reform insists on symbols because symbols shape loyalties. When 242 people stand in a hall and sing God Save the King, they are not performing obedience to a monarch, they are reaffirming a story about shared identity, continuity and sovereignty. The left cannot bear that moment because it reminds them that politics is not only about GDP tables, it is about belonging. Farage offers belonging, and that is why the membership keeps rising. So I will make a prediction. If Reform fields 5-0 candidates next May and keeps discipline, it will win between 800 and 10 council seats. That base will give it the activists and the local name recognition to fight 600 parliamentary seats in 2028. By then, the Conservatives will have raised the tax burden to its highest since 1948 and will still be failing to stop the boats. The choice will not be Reform versus Conservative, it will be Reform or Labour. And when 250,000 paid-up members are knocking on doors, the smears stop working. The only thing that can stop this wave is if the right fractures again in public, which is why Farage's closing plea for discipline is not a footnote, it is the whole ballgame.